I'm going to talk about the Mead Mishaps. Over the past week, I have read all four of the books. I can say, as an overview of all four books, read them. Okay. If you want to know why, stay tuned. Hi, welcome back. My name is Juju, and this is the Juju Show. And if you're new here, welcome. The first book I read was actually out of order. It was book 1.5, and it was called Mistletoe. Two main characters. You have a fox named Luca, Ruby, who is a human. Her dad is a blacksmith, and he needed to get some ore. I don't know anything about blacksmiths and the tools that they need, so take that with a grain of salt. But he steals some ore from the fox Luca, and then then I'm laughing because this book was so funny. His daughter Ruby sets off to go apologize to the fox because the fox has cursed the ore. So any sword or weapon that the blacksmith makes, they talk, and they are hilariously indecent. Okay. So just think dad jokes at 1000. Okay. So obviously sales are plummeting because no one wants a lewd talking sword. Okay. When they're in the middle of a battle. That is not what they want. Ruby sets off to find the fox in the woods because her dad can't even enter the woods now. He's tried to go back to talk to the fox, and as soon as he sets foot in the woods like repel him. Like he cannot go back to the woods. So Ruby's like, fine, I'll go back. I'll talk to the fox. I'm going to bring him some wine and some pies and some other treats, to see if I could get him to lift the curse. So she meets the fox, and the fox agrees to lift the curse if she agrees to be his mate for a week because he wants to get the land that he lives on. And the only way to get that is if he has a mate. He has to go see the local dragon and his wife, and he wants her to come with him. So they set off on this adventure. This is a novella, so there's not a lot of depth in this story. I will tell you that now. But the book was good enough for me to obviously read the other three books because I felt like if a novella, which I will probably always say this, and you will probably hear this many, 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 many times. With a novella, I always feel like it's missing that little bit of special oomph, the depth of character that I love reading and enjoying. So, how many times have I said so, y'all? I'm trying not to say so and so. So the story begins that way, and I don't want to tell you too much because it's a novella, and um, you go on this short adventure with them on how they, it's a romantic book, so how they end up together, and the course of that relationship. Now Ruby also has with her own weapon. It's a sword, and her name is Alexis. And does she talk? Absolutely. Is she hilarious? 100%. Is she also inappropriate? 99% of the time? Absolutely. Did I love it? Yes. Okay. So then you have book two, which is called that time I got drunk and saved a demon. So the main characters in this book are Sin. Her complete name is Cinnamon, and then the dragon named Fallon. Well, what happened was exactly as the title says. Cinnamon got pissed drunk and was on her way back to her family spice farm when she ran upon a dragon in the woods, and she tries to save him. Well, she does. I mean, she just moves some branches off of him, and there seems to be a little flaw in the story, but I think that was because he was trying to fight against the madness, which I'm about to explain, as why he was just laying there. But he didn't actually need saving. Um, so I guess that's worth noting, but it doesn't really matter. Anyways, she proceeds to help the man up, and he's like, run. And she was like, shit, this is a demon. And all they know is that there are these creatures that live outside of this boundary that this goddess set up to protect the humans from the demons. She's running from this demon, right? And she's trying to get away from him, and she grabs the cinnamon stick off her spice farm, when they're tussling, and she basically hits him in the face with it, and it goes up his nose. Well, he's dazed and confused for a second, so she uses that opportunity to run to her family's house and her mom and dad's house because they all live on the spice farm, and she has her own house on the farm, but she doesn't want to go where she'd be by herself. She runs in there, and then she starts stacking stuff up against the door, whatever, and gets a good night's sleep. Well, her family's like, "Well, you were drinking last night." So no one is believing her because of the fact that there is a boundary that prevents demons from getting in. They're eating dinner, and then the family's like, "Well, describe the man." And the demon in question's at the window and says, "He looks like this." He casually comes around the door and sits down. And obviously there was an uproar. And no one took that lightly except for Cinnamon, who's sitting there in shock. Like, he proceeds to tell her that when she put the cinnamon up his nose, that broke the madness curse, which the goddess Merva, or whatever her name was, what had put on all the demons. And that's why the demons randomly attacked the land every 15 years or whatever, is because she was literally making that happen. And the humans thought she was protecting them, but the reality is she was leeching off of their energy when they would come visit her at the temple, as well as, of course, she was leeching the energy off the demons as well, making her very powerful. She had these chalices that they're spread out across the land, the north, east, west, and south. There was a chalice near Cinnamon's farm in her town. Well, he makes a deal with her. He promises to protect her lands and her family if she helps break the chalice. And obviously her first question is, why can't you do it by yourself? And he proceeds to tell her that every time he gets close to the temple, the madness that she's cursed the demons with, it gets harder and harder to resist, like, which is what he had been trying to do while he was there in the first place. So that's how the adventure begins, and you go from there. So there are creatures in this book. There's dragons, there's orc, there's werewolves, witches, mages. It's this whole vast world that Kimberly Lemming has created, but she has created it in such a way that you are reading it and absorbing all of this information about these different creatures with ease. Like, I did not feel at one point that I was reading like a world building fantasy book, which I don't even know if this is considered that. I know it's a sci-fi romance, but it's really good, not to mention hilarious. All three of these books are absolutely funny in different ways. I would say Cinnamon's book is the funniest, and Missile Foe would be right behind that, a close second behind that. So those were both very good and funny books. So if you want to laugh, adventure, these are the books for you. So book number 2 is That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf. The main character in this book is Bree. She's human, and you have Felix, which is a werewolf. You meet Felix in the first book with Cinnamon, and he promptly declares to Cinnamon that they are best friends. Not too long after meeting her. He is a very fun-hearted. He's always smiling. He's just a very light individual that's been through a lot of really hard and challenging things, because when Cinnamon found him, he was actually in a town where they were using demons as basically as servants, slaves, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And she literally saved him from the guy that was trying to get him to turn into a werewolf so he could use his fur. Had these stones that controlled them and basically made them like zombies. They did not have any upper brain function at all. It was just another thing that the goddess, or witch, however you want to say, was doing to the demons. Just another atrocity that she was committing against them. Um, and I don't want to say too much because obviously, if you haven't read the first book, right? But I will say that Bree works in a cheese shop, and you learn that in the first book as well. And she is best friends with Cinnamon. There is a guy that is pursuing Bree, and he's just icky. Describing him in the book, and I was just like, oh, he's just one of those guys, just no good intentions at all, right? So he tries to give her a drink that is this bright pink color and said, here, I got you a special drink. Well, obviously there's magic in the land and stuff, so I guess you wouldn't really look at it like what in the world. And she didn't even drink it or anything, but she was like, I don't want your drink. I don't want anything to do with you. Leave me alone, essentially, right? She takes the drink in her hand and she throws it at him, and of course he knows what's in the drink. Even if it lands on you, the love potion works. It hits the werewolf, obviously, by the title, right? Felix immediately walks right up to Bree and kisses her, telling her that she is his mate and he's imprinted on her, because werewolves imprint on their mates, meaning that the minute they see them, there's like something that happens, and that's the one for them. There is no other. Well, he was hit by a love potion. Well, Fallon, which is the dragon in the first book, tries to help Bree and Cinnamon to understand like what they can do to help Felix, because he's under this love potion, and apparently for demons, potions are extra effective and dangerous on them. So dangerous that he could end up killing Bree. So you follow the story from there. Again, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to tell anything in book 2 that would happen, from book 1. You follow the story, and Bree is trying really hard not to fall for Felix. I will say that, because he's a great guy. Okay, he turns into a werewolf, but he's doing all the stuff for her. Like, she lives on a farm as well. She they do cheese, but she also she has goats. She has all this stuff for the cheese. Obviously, he's taking care of the animals, like all of this stuff for her, and just really caring. And she also is into werewolves, like in a major way. Like, she has a whole bookshelf section of werewolf romance books that she has read and loves. So werewolf, she's definitely into werewolves. She just never thought that she would actually meet one or be around one, right? So you follow the story about her trying to basically protect her heart while also trying to help him, because she feels really bad because she threw the love potion on him. It's a really good story, but after you read the first one, and if you love the first one, you got to read the other two. I mean, it's a no-brainer, and they're really quick reads to me. I marked them. I think I marked it as medium pace on Storygraph, but I guess it could also be considered fast paced, because the third book, which I'm about to talk about, is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human, follows Dante, which is a dragon, and Cherry, which is Cinnamon's sister. Cherry is also Cinnamon's long lost sister that Cinnamon believes is dead. Dante comes to visit a dragon, and this dragon's name is Gabriel. Well, apparently Gabriel had kidnapped Cherry, and he's had her for the last 5 years on this island where there's no one else there except for these frog creatures. The dragon never speaks, not one time, to Cherry. So she's just like upset. She yells, profanities at him, etc., etc. She tries several times to escape the island. And when he's visiting, he's like, hey, you need to get up, you need to eat, because Gabriel is just in his dragon form, and he's just sitting there at the castle, and he only wakes up when Cherry tries to escape, and he brings her back to the little tower that they got going on this island. When Dante comes to visit, Cherry sees him because she's in the woods at first, and she comes into the tower or whatever, and she has this plan that she's going to basically drug Dante with ayahuasca and to trick him into taking her home. Unbeknownst to Cherry, the minute Dante smells her, he knows that that's his mate. And he's like, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Well, it's already a little too late, because of the fact that Cherry's already served him the tea. And apparently this was like year-old ayahuasca tea. So it was real strong. He's talking to a banana. Just to let you know how high this dude is. He knows that Cherry's his mate, right? Well, she tells him that she wants to go home. Well, he's like, you been held here against your will? And, he's like, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. This is before Aya even hits that he would tell her he would take her home. And then he gets even more dramatic about, I'll take you anywhere, blah, blah, blah. Well, she goes to get her stuff. She comes down. He's in the floor talking to Banana, high as can be, on a little journey. He asked her, he's having these various conversations with the banana and the mango and to Cherry. Long story short, and his own inner conversation, he takes her to his castle. Some other stuff happens, but I don't want to say what happens again. I'm not a spoiler girl. I try really hard not to ruin stories for people. That being said, she's at his castle and she tries to escape and she can't. She gets lost in this big ass. She doesn't get lost, but she can't find the door in this big, humongous castle while Dante sleeps off the ayahuasca and wakes up to figure out what he's done and how he can right the situation. Also, Cherry will. I think I can say this part. Cherry will not tell him after, he wakes up and he explains who she is to him and everything. She will not tell him her last name because she doesn't know if she could trust him. I mean, and rightly so. She was kidnapped for 5 years by a dragon, and here's another dragon. Like, this other dragon is saying, "You're my mate." So, I mean, I get the hesitation. So they go on a series of adventures while she tries to figure out if he's trustworthy, so she can get him to take her home, or at least get her close enough so she can get home herself, back to her family. And then the adventure ensues. I will say this: Alexis the Sword is also in every one of these books. She is not a pivotal character per se, but she helps some of the main characters realize some things. Of course, I met her when she was created in Mistletoe. Kind of funny that I read that book first. It didn't impact, any of the other three books in any way. But I would say that you would need to read books 1, 2, and 3 in order. Just 1.5, you could read that first if you wanted to, no big deal, to see if you would, like the storyline. And if you find yourself wanting more, read the books. I hope that I didn't give out too much information on these stories, but enough for you to make a decision if you wanted to read these books. I will definitely read more books by Kimberly Lemming. I think that she's pretty awesome. I love her writing style. I laughed out loud so many times. I think she's a great writer. She has several other books out there, so I'm looking forward to read those. I think one of them has a funny title about being captured by an alien or something, but so I am looking forward to reading that as well. Don't want to just read them all and not have any books of hers left, so I'm going to take my time with it. Right now, I am reading My One Christmas Wish. So this will be the last Christmas book that I read because today, as of recording this, is the 23rd of December. I wanted to get one more Christmas book in there, and then that'll be all the Christmas books, and then we'll be focusing on January and the TBR. I'm also going to come back in a little while and talk about the books I want to read in January. There are a couple well-known books that I want to read that are on my list that I already have. I'm sitting here on the table, so we'll go through that as well. I will discuss some of the 2025 books that I've seen that are set to be released this year that looked really interesting. Until next time, have a good one. Bye.